All right, folks, I know we look a little non-standard here. At 6 o'clock, we're going to get started. We are very non-standard today because the mayor and the mayor pro tem are out sick. And I guess I got elected to run the meeting as them the, what's the right term, the old man of the council. So away we go. So I'll call the meeting to order. I've already announced who's missing, and let's go with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. All right, then I might as well not even. I also heard they were trying to bring beer, and Chief told them no. All right, if you're from the bank, come on up. You just kind of get around the podium up here. I probably better put that a little closer to me, although I've never been told anybody has a problem hearing me. So, this is probably one of the fun things the mayor gets to do. She's not here today. She did sign this proclamation off. I'll read it for you. Whereas Random Acts of Kindness Day is a nationally recognized annual tradition where millions of Americans come together to change the world, one random act of kindness at a time. Whereas First United Bank, that's these folks, is seeking to complete over 1 million acts of kindness through help and generosity of residents, community leaders, churches, nonprofit organizations, and businesses in the Garden Ridge community. And whereas United Acts of Kindness Day is a day for our community to come together and spread joy, hope, and love to friends, family, coworkers, and neighbors. And whereas United Acts of Kindness Day positively impacts lives by extending love and allowing us to be more kind. And whereas United Acts of Kindness Day reminds us that there is zero cost to being kind, and it takes only one small act of kindness to change a person's day for the better. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor, Lisa Swint, the mayor of the city of Garden Ridge, Texas, does hereby proclaim February the 13th, 2026 in the city of Garden Ridge as United Acts of Kindness Day. And the mayor has signed it. Do we need pictures?
Yes.
Come on in. Or should we go in front of the podium?
Yeah.
Then we can see everything. This goes to somebody here. Oh, one more. Hold it up. Awesome, thank you. Thank you all. Thanks. Sorry about the non-standard, but you know, the bug is going around. Everybody's had it. I had it a month ago. Thanks for coming.
Yes, sir, Council. Oh, excuse me. Yes, sir, Councilman. Today we have Jeb Smith here. He's our new area engineer for Comal County. Correct, Jeb? Okay. I didn't raise your title or anything, so. But I didn't promote you here today. So, new area engineer for Comal County. I recall, I think it was December meeting, Councilman, that you may have asked for Jeb to be here to give you an update on projects, specifically 2252 and other projects in and around affecting Garden Ridge. So, Jeb.
Okay, can everyone hear me? All right. Good evening, City Council. members of City Council, Ryan, thank you for the invitation to come and speak about TxDOT projects in the local area. So Ryan mentioned my name is Jeb Smith. I am the area engineer for TxDOT in New Braunfels. We cover Comal County, Guadalupe County, and Wilson County. It's about 2,400 lane miles of roadway that is under our jurisdiction. We cover all construction, maintenance, operations, and emergency operations within those three counties for state highway facilities. 2,400 lane miles, as I mentioned, and it's about just a little bit over $500 million of active construction right now across those three counties. So before I get into the projects that I want to give an update on, it isn't a TxDOT presentation if I don't at least mention safety very briefly. So you probably have seen on either television, maybe billboards, or heard it on the radio, our new campaign, which is called Drive Like a Texan, Kind, Courteous, and Safe. If you haven't seen it, they do have an ad with a cowboy. It's kind of cool. But kindness is just as simple as giving somebody a wave, you know, when they let you merge in. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. Courteous or courtesy is also quite simple. It's letting somebody merge in, giving somebody the room to merge, and not riding up on somebody's bumper when you're in traffic, and being patient so that you don't give into road rage or anything like that. Safety is obviously the most important thing. Everybody wants to get home safe, you know, at the end of their journey. Not just for yourself, but for your passengers, other drivers on the road, bicyclists that are sharing the road with us, and pedestrians. So if you haven't seen that campaign, keep an eye out for it. It'll be around for quite a while. Now, to get into the three projects that I want to kind of highlight tonight that y'all are probably very interested to hear, and I apologize, I don't have the goodie bags that the bank brought. Those are really cool. To start off with, our FM 2252 expansion here in Garden Ridge, that's from FM 3009 to Evans Road. That's expanding the existing two-lane configuration of roadway to four-lane divided with raised medians or continuous left turn lanes, bike lanes, and a sidewalk, and it also includes an added safety improvement of the grade separation by construction of a bridge over the Union Pacific Railroad there. That project currently is 59.94% complete. That's of the end of January. We just ran our construction estimate yesterday, day before yesterday, with 63.12% of time used. So that would indicate it's a little behind schedule, but not by much. We anticipate the contractor will accelerate into the summer months. Work on that project began January of 2024, and as of right now, we're estimating completion late 2027. But if there are opportunities with the contractor to accelerate the work, TxDOT will pursue those opportunities as much as possible. As of right now, contractors working on cross drainage systems under 2252, as well as drilled shaft foundations and columns for stage 2 of the railroad overpass bridge. You probably noticed in December, right before Christmas, we switched traffic onto the first stage of the bridge. I think it's quite a nice improvement as far as not having to wait on the train anymore, and it certainly is a safety improvement because we don't have vehicular traffic at grade with trains from Union Pacific that removes a collision risk, so that's an improvement, certainly. Weather permitting, we are expecting girders to be on site and set for that second stage of the bridge sometime mid-spring, probably April, and deck pours and completion of the construction of that stage of the bridge probably mid to late spring, April, May timeframe, again, weather permitting. So moving on to an even bigger project that is of interest, the IH-35 NEX Central job, which is not being overseen by my office, but I have the latest update from Mr. Marco Galindo's group that is overseeing it. That job is 71% complete as of January, and they are also estimating completion by late 2027. Right now, some work we have to look forward to. Frontage road repaving is going to start sometime later this month on the southbound frontage road, starting just south of FM 3009. We also have a traffic switch on Loop 1604 that is scheduled to begin this month, which will switch traffic to the new road beds they've constructed on the inside of the freeway there so that they can reconstruct the road beds on the outside for the main lanes. Moving on from that, the turnaround bridges, I know this is kind of towards Schertz, but the turnaround bridges for Schertz Parkway are tentatively scheduled to reopen end of this summer. Again, this is weather permitting, like all things in construction. And by next year, we're anticipating completion of a number of items, including all of the foundations, columns, and bridge girders. Most of the bridge decks should be wrapped up by about this time next year. The 1604 reconstruction that's going to start later this month should be wrapping up as well. And then some of the areas under the elevated lanes that are being constructed all up and down the freeway, Those should, at least some of those will be complete with permanent barrier in place. The temporary barrier will be removed, and the shoulders will be reopened to traffic. So that should start to see some of the congestion easing, we hope. And then the final project I just want to touch on is the IH-35 NEX North project, which will be the final piece of NEX. That project, my office will oversee out of New Braunfels, and that will be from where the current job ends, right around FM 3009, all the way up to just past FM 1103. Currently, that job is scheduled to let in September of 2028. However, this is pending funding, like all things in construction and all things with TxDOT. It could advance as early as May of 2027 letting, which is not this coming spring, but spring of next year. Again, pending funding. The official let date right now still remains September of 2028. And that is my update. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Do you know, Jeff, when they'll get down on 2252 to the 3009, 2250 intersection where it's going to widen? Do you know when they expect to be down working on that area?
Off the top of my head, I do not. I'll be happy to find out and let you
Okay.
know. I know right now they're focusing on the bridge work to get that area finished out, but I'll be happy to find out and send you an email and let you know.
And council, we also asked Jeb to do a traffic study for 3009 in Schoenthal to see if we can look at eventually getting a traffic light there. So those kind of things. But I appreciate it, Jeb, for coming
Absolutely.
in.
You beat me to one of my questions. Actually, you beat me to two of my questions. The only
Awesome.
other one I had was, I know you said late 27 to finish 2252. There's a couple of stoplights that are supposed to go on to 2252 at some point.
Yes, sir.
One at Bat Cave, I know, and I think the other one's over by Arrowwood, if I remember right. Weird question, I think, coming from me, but is it possible to accelerate those and get them in before the road bed's done? And the reason I'm asking is a lot of people are trying to turn out of, in my case, Bat Cave Road. There's all the construction barriers there and everything else, and it gets a little hairy, for lack of a better way to put it. And if it's not feasible, it's not feasible, but I wanted to ask that question.
Sure. It's a good question. I think it's a fair question. My gut is probably no, just because if the project wasn't designed for those signals to be in place, especially if we don't have the width with our phasing to allow for turn lanes, it could congest traffic a little bit better. But I'll still look and see, maybe there's a way we can fit a temporary signal in. I just don't want to guarantee it. And if I could jump in with one other update, for 3009 in Schoenthal, I spoke with traffic again today. It is on the schedule to be studied. The last time that we counted warrants at that intersection, it did not meet warrants to be signalized, but that was in 2024. So the traffic has increased. Maybe it does now. As soon as we have an update on those coming in, y'all will be the first to know.
Yeah, and that's if that light is warranted, I would hope it would be that we would bring it back to council for consideration about partnering with TxDOT for funding on it, if possible.
You reminded me, though, the other one that might warrant looking at is Trophy Oaks, where the folks are coming out of there. I know that's a private intersection to a point, but it's onto 3-Dub, and I know that historically there's been some wrecks there.
But Jeb, I appreciate it. Council,
Sure.
I was going to ask, is there going to be any type of construction on 2252 that's going to be north of 3009? You know how right now it's stopped.
Mhm.
Is there going to be any future expansion of widening those streets or making it more than two lanes, one going north and one going south? I was just curious.
Not at this time. We don't have any projects that are currently programmed for that area. Now, my office is we're working on a revamp of our 4-year pavement preservation plan to essentially make sure all of our roads have some plan to make sure that the pavement is not aging out and deteriorating, which a lot of our roads already are. So we're looking at overlays for that section, but no expansion at this time.
And then my last question on that is kind of piggybacking off of this, because the reason why I ask is because it is starting to congest on that, at that area right there. And if that wasn't going to be on the horizon, I was looking at I was talking with Ryan on this too, maybe a traffic light or a control device for the Regency neighbors residents that are trying to come out of that neighborhood, because I know for sure they're getting backlog with people trying to come south onto 2252 that are trying to get to 3009, whether it's because of 35, it's jammed and they're exiting. I just didn't know if that was an option as well, a traffic control device at that residence, at the Regency Oaks, which is right there on, it's like the 1st Street north of 3009 at 2252, so
Yes, sir. So I'm aware of that subdivision. What I can do is I'll talk with our traffic section when we have our next regular meeting. We'll get that added to the list of intersections to count. So in order for us to install a traffic signal, it has to meet signal warrants. We can't just decide to go and put one, but I'll add it to the list so that we can get it studied.
Yeah, I really appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
Sure.
Council, any more questions? Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you,
Appreciate it for
members of
coming.
council. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I might as well just leave this thing on. Citizens' comment period is up. Do we have anybody signed up?
No, we did not.
Nobody, so we will skip past all of that. I won't even bother reading it, since nobody signed up. Next item on the agenda is item number 5, the consent agenda. These items may be acted upon in a single motion. No separate discussion or action on these items will be held unless requested by a council member. Public comment on these items may be heard during citizens' participation. However, that does not mean the item will be considered outside the consent agenda. Does the rest of council have anything they'd like to remove from the consent agenda?
No.
Okay. Then I need a motion.
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? I don't hear any.
No.
All in favor, vote.
Aye.
Aye. It's weird, I get to talk and vote. Okay, staff reports. City manager report. Ryan, you're up.
Thank you, Councilman. We have a recognition of employees of service. We have one employee for January, officer forehand 1 year. So thank you for your service. And then acknowledgements, again, our water bill stuffers, we have about 8 hours for volunteers. And then does City Council have any questions related to department updates in the packet to staff specifically? Okay. Just real quick, a correction was made in regards to the dumpsters. They're not available this weekend. The update was made on our social media to indicate dumpsters would be available next weekend, which is a normal schedule. So just want to let you know. Last day to file for City Council seat is Friday, February 13th. Just general updates related to community permits, usage of community center are in the agenda packet. On the agenda tonight, we're updating the ordinance related to the city's building codes. Next month, we'll work to bring forward a revised permit fee schedule. Following approval of the updated building codes and permit fees, staff will work towards implementing an online permitting system. In addition, the Planning and Zoning Commission will review the updated subdivision ordinance this month, which will later be brought forward before City Council for consideration. Staff will also work with the mayor to schedule a workshop to begin the process of developing the city's strategic plan. As we've talked about, having a workshop with council, getting a facilitator, and actually developing the city's first strategic plan to follow for the next 1 to 5 years immediately from that standpoint. Upcoming events, the City of Garden Ridge will maintain an exhibit space at the upcoming ICSC Retail Live Conference in San Antonio later this month to market the city, foster a relationship with retailers, and exploring opportunities for them in Garden Ridge. I'll turn it over to Hank right now for anything related to our city engineering report.
Thanks, Ryan. Good evening, council. Did want to do a few updates on some things. I haven't talked about the SAWS Emergency Interconnect in a couple months, so want to give an update on that. It has been on hold. We've been waiting on the SAWS plans to be released to us, which is on hold until they can get an easement from Comal ISD. That is scheduled for this at the end of this month, I believe the 26th, for that consideration of that easement to be approved by Comal ISD board. Once that chain happens, then if they approve, then we should get those plans to be able to work on that connection. So that's kind of the piece we've been held up on. Once that is given to us, we can move forward with the permitting of that and finalizing those plans. The water system capital improvement plan project, I'll go more in depth on that. I have some presentation slides for individual item consideration. I also wanted to mention that we are going over a draft subdivision ordinance at next week's P&Z with the zoning commission and getting some feedback from them. So That eventually will come to council, but we're going to work through P&Z first. And I did want to take a moment to introduce our senior engineer, Jason Vreeland, back here. Jason may be here next month. I have a daughter that's due right around council, so he's going to be filling in for me while I'm out. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
We'll leave it as an excused absence.
Yeah, I guess that's acceptable.
Yeah. Thanks, Hank.
Okay, and I guess we'll move on to approvals and authorizations. And again, Ryan, you're up.
Council, this item is in regards to Garden Ridge's fiscal year 2025 annual financial audit, including a presentation from Armstrong, Vaughn and Associates. The auditors issue an unmodified and/or clean opinion, the highest level of assurance indicating the city's financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP. Overall, the audit reflects strong financial management and reporting practices. The audit covers the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025, and represents historical financial information only. It does not evaluate future budgets or financial conditions. We have Carl Gorig, sorry if I butchered that up, from Armstrong and Vaughn here to provide you a presentation and go over the report. Also like to recognize Robin. She did a lot of work on this audit with the auditors to have this ready for us for this meeting. So, Carl?
Okay, I prepared a brief PowerPoint. I think last year's mine went on a little too long, so I shortened it up a little bit. But if you guys have questions at any time, please feel free to stop me and we can go over them, or you can ask me at the end. As Ryan had mentioned, this is for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2025. Do I have to? Okay. Okay, good, I got it right. Okay, so what is an annual financial report? The only thing I want to go over on this slide is the fourth and fifth bullet point down. You have two sets of financial statements being a government municipality. One are the government-wide financials, which encapsulate all of the city activity in one set of financial statements, and then you have your fund financial statements, which breaks out the funds. The main difference here is that the government-wide statements are long-term, so you'd see the city's long-term assets and liabilities, and the fund statements are presented on a one-year modified accrual. It's what Robin presents to you in your monthly packets. It's how the city keeps its books, and so that will be where the bulk of the focus of this presentation is tonight, on the fund financial statements. And so now we're going to go over some of the financial highlights in the outbrief. So first, on the first page of the audit report is our opinion letter. And the purpose, as Ryan had put, is to form an audit opinion on whether the financial statements are presented fairly and in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The audit opinion that we gave is an unmodified opinion. This is the best opinion that we can give on an audit. It means that there were no modifying statements and the financial statements are free of material misstatement. Okay, so just a couple of quick government-wide financial highlights. And again, this is long-term statements. Let me go to my packet here. So I put page numbers. In case you were wanting to follow along with the actual audit report, this would be page 11 and 13. And the assets of the city exceeded the liabilities by $11.2 million as of September 30th, 2025. Your business type activities, this is your water fund. This would be page 21 through 23 of the audit report. The assets of the water fund exceeded liabilities by $10.4 million. Now, a couple things I wanted to note here. Revenues did exceed expenses, so you had net income for the year of $421,000 before transfers. After transfers, which were for capital projects coming from ARPA, the net position increased a total of $740,000. So your overall net position for the water fund increased $740,000, but only $421,000 was before transfers from ARPA. And so I wanted to point that out because the last bullet there, fiscal year 2025, is the final year with ARPA-related expenditures. The ARPA funding has now been complete. Okay, I'm going to be going over the notes that I have on the next slide, but they all relate to this current slide that we're looking at. These are the fund statements, and so if you're following along on your audit report, this would be page 18 or 19, or in the very back, page 63 through 65 actually breaks it down in a year-to-year comparison, in which I'm going to kind of go over some of that comparison right now. So these are your fund statements, and focusing primarily on the general fund, which is that first column there. Let's look at some of the revenues. So in taxes, you have ad valorem and sales taxes. Ad valorem, even though you decreased the tax rate in the prior fiscal year, you actually increased overall tax revenues by $119,000. That's primarily due to the valuations of homes going up. And sales tax also saw a healthy increase. Sales tax increased from the prior year by $69,000. Okay, next would be franchise fees. It decreased a little bit by $10,000, but fluctuations are normal from year to year. There wasn't any one particular reason why franchise taxes as a whole decreased. Next year, I'm sure it'll increase again. License and permits decreased by $16,000, but Ryan has been talking about plans to introduce a new rating system or rate system for permits to kind of get that more on par with standards elsewhere. So that probably will end up leading to an increase next year. But decreases generally just reflect activity, so less building permits being issued. Charges for services saw a $52,000 increase, or 52.7, but this isn't necessarily an increase in activity. Instead, the garbage rates increased in the prior year in order to keep up with the expenses. And so this is the first full year of that new rate increase for garbage. And so naturally revenues increased, but it wasn't due to particular activity within charges for services. Fines and forfeitures decreased by $44,000. This is primarily attributed to, and I had Chief help me with this and kind of explaining, but primarily it's easing of the water citations. So I guess the first year, prior year, 2024, there was quite a few citations for water, and it's kind of easing off. And then finally, your other sources, your miscellaneous, they're steady from the prior year. The largest donation in the year was to a library donation. Okay, on the expenditure side, general administration, I just kind of wanted to point these out because these were having some significant changes due to the payroll increases. Total general administration increased by $294,000. $91,000 of that is payroll related. The remaining are from all of the other kind of improvements, you know, the sound system improvements, community center, other general town, city hall improvements that weren't necessarily capitalized but led to the increase. Municipal court was very comparable. It actually decreased by about $4,000. Police protection increased by $250,000 from last year, and most, if not all of that, is contributed to personnel. Public facilities, I noted that there was a $75,000 increase in personnel again, and Animal Control Park had building maintenance, which increased expenses there by $98,000. The last section on the expenditures, the capital outlay, this represents all of the expenditures that we capitalized this year, and you completed the Bat Cave Road, which I heard you mentioning earlier, as well as, again, all of the community center and audio upgrades that y'all have been doing for this year. A complete kind of breakdown of what we capitalized can be found in note 6. You can see that in the fixed assets section. The other number that I wanted to point out here is the last line on the slide, excess or deficiency of revenues over under expenditures. The general fund saw a $298,000 loss for the current year. And so I wanted to point that out because it's the first year in a few years that there actually has been a loss. So let me change slides. Sorry. Okay, so I do want to point out, and we'll see this on the next slide, the general funds fund balance, you can think of that as like your equity or your residual year after year. At the end of 2025 fiscal year was $5.5 million. The combined fund balance of all the funds is 6 million. And so when you kind of start thinking, okay, 5.5 million, is that good? Is that bad? What does that mean? Well, for a city your size, that means that you have, it equates to about 18 months of expenditures worth in the fund balance. Now, GFOA sets guidelines, other institutions set guidelines as well as how many months of fund balance you should have. Generally, there's a good feeling of, it's your savings account, essentially, of what you have. And so anywhere from 6 months to a year is a really healthy fund balance, and right now you're sitting at 18 months. But I do again want to point out the general fund had a deficiency of $298,000, and that this is the first year that salary rates are being reflected. And so if you're considering all of the capital outlay, which you had quite a bit this year, and the payroll increases, it led to an overall decrease in fund balance. You won't have as much capital outlay every single year, but in reality you do, right? Every city has a bunch of construction projects that go on every year. This is the fund balance slide, and again, this would be on the fund statements. I believe I said page 11 and 13. But I just wanted to show the breakdown of your fund balance, and you can see in the general fund, the unassigned is 5.3 million. But the overall was about 6 million in total. Okay, just a few more slides on just some of the notes. I did want to show the debt, long-term debt note. The top part is the governmental activities, and the bottom section are the business type activities. I went ahead and added up the principal and interest for 2026, and the city will spend $945,000 in principal and $134,000 in interest in fiscal year 2026. And if you wanted to look more at this note, it would start on page 39 and end at page 43. Okay, just a couple of quick slides on the retirement. I do like to bring this up each year. So that first section is looking at the net pension liability, and it's got 3 columns, 3 different discount rates. That's essentially your rate of return or your investment return rate. And the middle column is the actual for this year, 6.75, and it's showing you have a net pension liability of $428,000. And we'll get to in a second if that's a good number, a bad number, or how the city's doing. But I like this slide because it goes ahead and pretends, well, what if your discount rate, you did better on your investments by 1 percentage point, 7.75. Well, then you'd actually have a net pension asset, so you'd be in the black by 151,000. And then it says, okay, well, what if you did 1 percentage point worse at 5.75? That would increase your liability to 1.1 million. So you can see how just 1% in investments can have a huge swing on your overall pension liability. And then I just wanted to show the employees by number on who's participating and who's already receiving benefits. And it did increase by 1 person, or 1 employee, sorry. Okay, this is a lot of numbers. There's only a couple of rows that I actually want to talk about here. I just want to say this whole top section is the total pension liability. Those are your liabilities, what are going against the city. That whole bottom section where it says planned fiduciary net position, these are essentially the assets to go against the liability. And finally, the second kind of to last line is the net pension liability, so liabilities minus the assets. And the furthest to the right column for 2024, which is this fiscal year's column, is a net pension liability of $428,000. The line that I kind of like to point out, especially in our city managers meeting, is the net investment income. It is the third line on the planned fiduciary net position. I like to show this over the years because you can kind of see how the investments go up and down. In 2022, you can see you had a negative investment, a net loss of $293,000, and it took your pension liability to $610,000 at that point in time. Currently, you're sitting at a net investment income, unrealized gains of $454,000. So this is a good way to see kind of what are your actual contributions versus what is in the market right now, and you have $454,000 of unrealized gains. So again, $428,000 liability, is that good? Can the city cover its liability? It seems like a large number. The percentage to watch out for is the very last line on the slide, the percentage of pension assets to the liability. You're sitting at 91.95% covered. So that means you have enough assets to cover 91% of the liability. GFOA, which sets best practices for municipalities and other governments, say that as long as you're above 70%, you're adequately funded and you get the thumbs up from them. You're at 91.95, and you can see historically you've been in the 90s for the most part, or at least the high 80s. So TMRS does a great job. They control how much you should be contributing in order to keep in a positive percentage in comparison to the liability. So overall, the financial statements were free of material misstatements. There was a lot of checkpoints on meeting GFOA. You have a healthy fund balance, so we gave you the unmodified opinion. Does anyone have any questions for me? Okay. All righty, well, thank you, everybody.
This is the point where we're supposed to ask questions, if you've got any questions about the audit. If there aren't any, we've got to move it on to a motion to accept the audit report.
Okay, I'll make the motion then. I'll make a motion to accept the fiscal year 2025 audit report.
Got a motion, do we got a second?
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, let's pull it to a vote. Aye.
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 All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. Excellent, thanks.
Thank you, and I do want to echo again what Ryan was saying. It is a lot of work to get an audit done, especially if they're going through all the financials, and Robin does an impeccable job. We had very few adjustments, as always, so it's easier when we're working with somebody like Robin to get the audit done. Okay, good night, everyone.
Nice job, Robin. And thank you. Okay, moving on, we're going to go to the Board of Adjustment appointments, and Ryan, you're still up.
I believe this is for the appointment that was, at the last meeting, there was a nomination by you councilmen to place Karen Diaz on the Board of Adjustment, but had to resign from P&Z, which we had received her resignation. So it's just a matter of y'all voting tonight to have her on Board of Adjustment. Correct, Marissa?
Correct. There are up to 2 additional alternate members to be filled. And that doesn't mean both of them need to be filled right now. It's just, that's what the ordinance allows, is we still have 2 more alternate positions left.
Okay, so I know Karen's here. Did we have the other alternates? Is any of them? I know, Brian, you had somebody last month that. Oh, was that P&Z? Okay, never mind then. Okay, well, if we don't have any discussion points, then we need a motion and a second.
So was the motion to accept? The motion is to accept Karen Diaz's appointment to the Board of Adjustment. Is that the motion?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you can just make a motion to appoint her to the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
Y'all accepted her resignation in the consent agenda from Planning and Zoning.
That's right, okay. Okay, I want to make the recommendation to accept Karen Diaz's appointment to the Board of Adjustments.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
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 It's unanimous. You're on, Karen. P&Z.
Council, this is for the appointment to Planning and Zoning. If you recall last meeting, Councilman Reyes nominated Christopher Johnson. The process was for us to interview, being myself, the mayor, and Chairman Jackman. The mayor and I interviewed Christopher Johnson, and we are thumbs up. And then I believe the chairman spoke to Christopher on the phone, had a good conversation, and he's here to discuss that nomination.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Like Ryan mentioned, we met with, I spoke with Mr. Johnson and had a very good conversation about his interest to serve on Planning and Zoning. He He is a current police officer with 17 years on the force with San Antonio Police. He also has a local business here in the city of Schertz. He's got a very good idea and is excited to serve on planning and zoning and to be part of the future growth and the planning and of the city. So I recommend along with our city, with Ryan and Mayor Swint, for Mr. Christopher Johnson to serve on the planning and zoning.
Okay, we've got a recommendation for Christopher Johnson to be put onto the Planning and Zoning Commission. Do we have any council discussion on it? I don't have anything either, so do we have a motion?
Motion to appoint Christopher Johnson to the P and Z Board.
Okay, we have a motion, we get a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, and Kendra got that one. Okay, all in favor, vote aye.
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 It's unanimous again. So, Chris, if you're watching out there, you're on.
Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you. Is there, I'd just like to mention, we do have one vacancy on planning and zoning, so I think now with Ms. Diaz resigning, so any volunteers out there, please submit your application. But thank you.
Thanks, sir.
And correct me if I'm wrong, y'all are meeting actually next Wednesday, right?
Yes, we are having our meeting next Wednesday, and one item, like Ryan mentioned, we'll be looking at the subdivision ordinance and getting that up. It's been updated. So we'll be reviewing that and providing comments, and hopefully we'll bring that back to City Council for the approval of that revision. Thank you.
Okay, then we'll keep clipping along. Next up is item 7.4, the 2025 to 2045, is that right? Water System Capital Improvement Plan from the Water Commission.
Council, as a few points here, the city of Garden Ridge continues to provide high-quality water service and maintain superior rating from TCEQ. To support continued service excellence and planned anticipated growth, the city retained Tri-Hydro to prepare a 2025-2045 water system capital improvement plan. The CIP builds upon the city's existing water master plan and impact fee reports and focuses on identifying and prioritizing capital projects needed to meet future water system demands. The plan evaluates current system conditions, estimates future capacity requirements, and outlines recommended improvements with associated costs and implementation timelines. The scope of the work includes updating the city's water system model, developing a phased, cost-effective capital plan to guide the long-term infrastructure investments. This was developed and prepared by Hank and Tri-Hydro. What I'll have right now is Hank do the presentation that he did to the Water Commission, and then we'll ask the chairman to discuss what consideration, input, and overall assessment and approval by the Water Commission. I think this went through two meetings at the Water Commission, and it's ready for y'all's review and approval tonight. Go ahead, Hank.
Thanks, Ryan. As Ryan said, this is mainly just a brief overview on how we had the report come to be, and it goes over a few of the key pieces in the report. So if you just follow along with me on this. So, going through the scope of work, how we got through this, listed above, we analyzed growth trends, regulatory requirements, investigated existing facilities, did a lot of hydraulic modeling. We did a few rounds of model calibration, and then took a look at system improvements, worked with city staff, particularly Stephen in the water department, through a lot of their needs to make sure those were incorporated. And then develop the capital improvement list from there, and list of cost estimates based on current market information. So, as Ryan mentioned, we did go through 2 months, both December and January with the Water Commission, and admittedly, we only had a weekend for review for the Water Commission for the December one, so there were some lingering questions that we verified. Went through those again in January, and then touched some things up before finalizing this report and bringing it to council. So a few good rounds. There was a lot of valuable information that was exchanged or feedback that was given from the Water Commission, and we did our best to incorporate that into the final product. So as you see up here, it's kind of small, but it's an overall projects map. In the orange, you'll see the immediate projects, the immediate 5-year projects, which is mainly going to be some upsizing of lines, getting up to at least a minimum of 8-inch, addressing some deficiencies in fire flow requirements, and then also having some critical valve improvements throughout the city. The magenta color is your next 5-year take. Most of that is replacing aging water lines, primarily in forest waters. And then on your cyan color there is your next take, your 10 to 15 year from now. And that's installing some larger lines for connectivity, some extensions for future improvements or future development in the city, excuse me. And then it's the lime green color there is really just one project. That's going to be the second pressure plane, adding some more storage, and the location of such is up for discussion on where we end up putting that. But the idea is we have, on the southern end of the city, we have 120 PSI, 130 PSI. And if that line breaks, it is shooting out. We did have a break in the FM 2252 project, and it shot across the road there in FM 2252. So being able to step down those pressures and have a second pressure plane will alleviate some of those. It'll increase response time for Public Works to be able to rectify and not lose as much water volume through the situation. So that's kind of a brief overview of these 4 takes. And then here's the first 5-year take, and it's kind of organized by prioritization. As you can see at the bottom, it's a little over $5 million over the next 5 years. And then the next 3 5-year takes are fairly similar until you get to that second pressure plane project. So that's really all I had. Open to, or happy to answer any questions you might have, any thoughts before I pass it over to Bill. All right. Bill, do you want to lead this up for-
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine, thank you. City Council, thank you. The commission reviewed the second draft of this plan at our last meeting. We requested a couple of minor changes that have now been incorporated into the final draft. And then based on that, the commission voted unanimously to recommend acceptance and approval by the City Council. The goal in this thing, as we looked at it, was, is the plan complete? I mean, does it really encompass the system, and is it accurate? The CIP meets both those objectives. I think particularly the issue of modeling, which is creating a computer synthesis of how the water system works. After some tweaking, we have a lot of confidence that that model actually is really duplicating and replicating how the system works, which allows a lot of what-if planning, playing around, and so on. The accuracy of the cost estimates is correct. They do recommend, or they do recognize costs as of today, even for the far-out projects, so there's no inflationary factors built into that, and that'll have to be accounted for later. And that should be done whenever the plan is updated based on current construction costs. And the list of projects is accurate. We went through and made a few adjustments, but it accurately reflects all the streets, all the water lines that are under those streets. You know, at this point, the City Council should, you know, direct the connection of this plan with future budgets, incorporate the plan's list of projects, which are nicely prioritized into the budget, future water rates, external financing needs, and then potentially state financial support. Those were things outside of our scope, but that's sort of where this goes after this. So again, our recommendation is approval. Questions?
Yeah, if we go beyond the 5 years, is there going to be a penalty or added fees in this, or is it contingent on it's a 5-year plan? You know, let's say there's you never know what happens, right, that slows something down, or it gets delayed beyond the 5 years. Is there a penalty from a financial perspective, or?
You know, I mean, the only penalty is if you push stuff off too far, there is a risk that stuff fails. And then you're forced into positions of not being able to choose, but having to react. There'll be some advance notice of that, and that's noted in the report, that if the mapping of leaks within the city start to show areas, it may say, we need to move this project forward. I'd say it's not so much penalty, but it's more discipline, which says we have an aging infrastructure. It's natural. Whether there's 1,000 gallons or 1,000,000 gallons going through this pipe, it's going to need to be replaced. So we need to pick a plan and then build a financial model around that and see if it works. I think the pressure plane one, for example, is the most expensive signal item, and that's really an improvement to the operation of the system and avoiding, you know, maybe a catastrophic problem. You know, we challenge Tri-Hydro, are there alternatives to that? Because it's like a $7 million roll. It's a lot of money.
I think most importantly, as the chairman says, this is a 20-year document. It's fluid. It can be changed. These are just the priorities right now. And one project that's a priority between 2030 and 35 may be moved up.
Yeah.
The other part to this is we're going to incorporate the street CIP. So we're going to do the water projects first, water lines, and then do the streets the following year. So they'll run concurrent, those kind of things. But this is a tool also to use during budget time to say, here are the most important prioritized items for city council's consideration to put in the budget that year, or this year, or future years for that matter.
The other thing that could redirect it is some of the pipelines are directed toward increased flow into these areas to be developed for mixed business use. And if there's a lot of activity coming down the pike in that, there may be projects to advance, say, the pipeline running north on 2252 to service that area. But that's something that you'll have visibility, but the cost for doing that is in here. Okay.
And again, you have the water fund that has a reserve, but and you may be able to do some of these projects with the reserve, but ultimately it may be where we're borrowing debt to do a number of these projects, which will introduce a new variable into the rate for future years as well. But this gives us a better idea financially where we need to go, and if we have to borrow, what that variable looks like as a debt into the water rate for future years as well. Well, that's next item.
Yeah, right.
So
Anything else?
I know we talked
Jim.
about this the last two times, Bill, and I know we've got through a lot of this, but I think that it's important to highlight on this also. This document was to sort of identify future needs and go through, prioritize stuff that we need to do for the water fund. You look at those numbers, those are significant numbers that you're showing up there, and be significant impact. So now the hard work kind of starts about funding and how to pay for all this, and this is a great list of priorities and things that need to get done that we just got to figure out how we can possibly pay for them. So that'll be step 2. That's going to fall to us. So I think with this thing, the important thing is we're accepting that the priorities and the list of tasks that need to get done over the next, how far does it go? 20 years. The Water Commission was good with it, and they had a lot of discussion about it, and I don't think I would have anything to add or change on this. Is there anything you were uncomfortable with, Bill, on this?
No, I think the projects are accurate, complete, and based on today's estimates are good, and it's a great roadmap. I would say, like I said, the later project, the water plane one, is the only one that there may be technology that'll come along that might offer some solutions, because that's, you know, right now that's a $7 million project. But we're in a unique situation due to elevation changes that we have a lot of water pressure down at that area, and that's an area that's going to have future development. So I don't know what ramifications that has. There's just going to be more lines with more pressure on it. But that was probably the only area that I asked whether there might be alternatives, and we didn't explore that, but there may be. But no, other than that, I think it's a very good roadmap. It's just now saying, okay, we're gonna take this chunk, work on it for the next few years. How does it affect water rates? How does it basically affect the city's finances? Because they're major capital projects.
I just, again, want to stress the coordination, so we'll have soon, is the street side of the CIP, and we want to make sure that anything we have outlined for water lines to be replaced, that we ensure we have the next year for the street to be done. Because it doesn't look good if we're doing vice versa, so we want to make sure there's coordination.
Doesn't look good as an understatement, but okay.
Doesn't look good for the city manager.
Okay, any other discussion from council, any other questions? We all good? Okay, this is another one of those items we got to vote on. So for the water system capital improvement plan, I need a motion.
I move that we accept the 2025 to 2045 water system capital improvement plan.
I got a motion, do I got a second?
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call to a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And again, it's unanimous. Sounds like we've looked at this stuff. Okay, we'll move on to 7.5, discussion and possible action authorizing the city manager to submit grant applications to the Texas Water Development Board for the benefit of the city of Garden Ridge, including but not limited to funds for water supply and infrastructure projects. Ryan, you're up.
Approved. Robin was in part of this, I guess you'd say presentation, or when they opened up the grant for this, Robin said, hey, we need to look at this, and I said, I agree 100%. But there's some background, and as you see in the agenda item summary, but City Council tonight is asked to consider authorizing myself as city manager to submit a grant application to the Texas Water Development Board for water supply and water infrastructure projects that could benefit the city of Garden Ridge. So what we would be looking at is there's variable projects that we can apply for, but one of the things we want to focus on, and as Hank mentioned during the engineering report, was the interconnect to SAWS. So if you recall, there's $660,000 in the water fund transferred over from the general fund for design and construction for that project. So if we could apply for that and get the money for that, that money could be used for those other projects. And now that we have this CIP, it's something we submit to say, here's the City of Garden Ridge projects, here are the ones that we'd like to pursue. So, it would be great if we get $5 million, but I would be looking for anything and all that would cover some of these projects right now that are outlined in the CIP. So between Rob and myself, Hank, we'll probably be looking at writing this grant here. There is a timeline, I think, Robin, in March that will apply, but we just want to get council's authorization for me to move forward with staff to apply for this.
Okay, council, any questions, any discussion items?
It's a no-brainer. Go get us some money.
Yeah.
You were in the military or something, weren't you? Kind of like me. Yeah, it does, in my opinion, seem, as a councilman, it does seem to be a little bit of a no-brainer. But that's what we've got a city manager like Ryan for. So, if there's no other discussion, I need a motion approving Ryan to go to the Texas Water Development Board, as we just discussed.
Okay, I'll make the motion to authorize the city manager to pursue and submit grant applications to the Texas Water Development Board for the benefit of the city of Garden Ridge, including but not limited to funds for water supply and infrastructure projects.
All right, I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
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 Aye, the ayes have it, unanimous again. Okay, and this one I can talk maybe a little bit more about, as well as the city manager. So 7.6, discussion of possible action to repeal resolution number 53506-2025 related to aggregate production operations, the APO Advisory Council for the City of Garden Ridge. I'm also involved in that. I know, Ryan, you've got a little bit of probably stuff to discuss about it as well. We brought it up here, I think it was last month, that we're a little bit handicapped with the way we're doing it, with having to, file and have an agenda and all that, versus having citizens come in and have a more open discussion, for lack of a better way to put it. The set agenda sometimes seems to be hampering what we can do and what we can work on that. Yeah, essentially, it's a public meeting, and we have to publish an agenda and all those things. Well, but what if somebody comes up with a real problem? For example, the blast that we just had this last week, where there was, half a dozen, 10 or so, something like that, people that called in and complained and all that. Well, if it's not on the agenda ahead of time, we can't sit in there and talk about it and try to work solutions. So I know, Ryan, you had some other inputs on it?
Yeah, I just had some notes here that obviously this is a recommending to repeal this resolution. The advisory council served as a useful purpose, and staff believes dissolving the formal advisory structure may better support the long-term objectives by allowing more flexible organic exchange of information, intended to encourage open communication, collaboration, and preserving the decision-making and authority to city council, of course. The goal is that next month on the agenda, we'll probably have an item for and/or get council's blessing on sort of a new framework. And this framework will look like more of a committee type or a task force that would be led by myself as city manager to come back to city council with recommendations from that working group. I think obviously that gives more flexibility to this group to speak to the Quarry representatives, to meet with residents and so on about these things. I know that obviously we had a different city attorney at the time, and the recommendation was this path, and Dan is on board with moving forward with this and repealing this resolution and moving toward a more flexible type of working group or task force to have discussions with Quarry about anything and everything we want to, that lasting long-term projects, those kind of things. So I know the mayor wanted to expand on this as well, and maybe when we bring this item next month, she can do that as well. So, but first and foremost, we'd like to repeal this, because again, we have a couple meetings set up that we want to have just to talk about blasting concerns.
Yeah.
Here soon, and we want to make sure that we are able to do that.
Okay, and as the council member that's been involved in this, I'm all for this idea. We need to, without doing anything illegally, and he'll keep us out of trouble, free us up to have a little bit more open conversations without worrying about TOMA and following all the different rules of holding the public meeting and all those things. I think it'll help our relationship with the Quarry as well as our ability to work with them. I don't want to say we're not going to solve all the problems a Quarry causes in our city, because it's not a realistic expectation, but it'll help us work together with the Quarry to mitigate the problems.
Yeah, and I would say we had two very good, productive meetings, and Councilman Arvidsson was the one who facilitated these meetings, and we welcomed comments, input, and I would say it was pretty productive. But trying to get things done in between those is not the best way to resolve some of the things that are issues or concerns being brought forward by residents related to, the Quarry. So, Dan, anything you wanted to?
And City Manager, Councilman, it's important to note that the study group, this task force, will not have any public decision-making authority. Everything will come back to you, the elected officials. And Ryan and I have kind of already worked through that, the questions to ask and everything. And basically what it will do is it will be basically gathering information to come back to you to have a deliberate, you can deliberate it and discuss it on the dais. So there's not going to be anything that's going to be untold or anything like that. It's all going to, they're going to come back and they're going to report to y'all, and it's going to be the good, the bad, the ugly. And then y'all will decide on which way you go. So that's how we can go about doing this, as a task force, as a, what I call the study group, and y'all will be the final and only decision makers, okay? It's basically gathering information, for lack of a better word.
In some cities, in my prior cities, there was task force that were, done. for this type of thing are studies that sometimes had a time limit, but ultimately, it would be the city manager coming back with the group's recommendation for council to consider to approve or not approve. So,
It's, just to kind of expand a little bit on what Ryan said, I think the idea is, talking with Mayor Swint, is we need the ability to have the flexibility to go, hey, we had a problem with a blast. I'll pick on the blast that I already mentioned. And we want to go meet with the quarry and talk to them about it. Well, crap, if we're doing it through the proper means, well, now we've got to do the 72-hour notification and the quorum and just all the different hoops you've got to jump through versus, hey, Mayor Swint and Ryan and Councilman Arvidsson are going to run over to the quarry and talk to them about the blast we just had. Not make any decisions, just talk to them about it, and then it all comes back here for this group to make the legal decisions. Any questions or thoughts from the rest of council?
Sure, a couple of things, real quick on this one. First of all, I'm in favor of the repeal, and it sounds like we have a good plan. I just want to make sure as we go forward that, I know there's some residents that were on the original council there, and just make sure whatever we end up doing, how we do this, that residents still get a voice and they are heard through this entire process and have input. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. And I know we had an expert on that council, and are we still going to have expert advice somehow? Okay, I see nodding. I'm good.
yes.
Yeah. It's really not going to change the personnel that are there. It'll adjust the legal standing, and no decisions can be made there. They've all got to be made here at council. So, we have any other discussion?
One quick question, so if we repeal this, today, and then we vote on, what is the timeline for establishing the task force and moving forward with all of those things?
Repealing this, and then, I don't know, Dan, it could be that council, y'all could authorize me to put together a task force tonight and then come back next meeting, or we just have an agenda item next month that talks about this sort of new structure and how it'll be the intent and point of that new structure and what they'll do as a task force. I say task force, it could be a
Study group, whatever.
study group, working committee, that kind of thing.
And it would
Can
probably
y'all
be.
come back next month and let us know what the plan is?
Yeah, I think that's the idea.
Yeah,
Come back next month.
I think that would be best, that hopefully everyone's here and everyone has an input to it, but tonight you just simply need to repeal it so that we can move forward next month and get ideas how y'all want to do it.
And it
Okay.
could be something that I can incorporate into my city manager report to say, the group met and here's what we discussed, and, nothing forthcoming to council just yet, but here are some of the things that were brought to our attention as this working group. So just to keep council involved and updated.
Okay, any other discussion?
No, I think it's a good idea. I've got to say, the fast tracking, the flexibility, it's presenting the obstacles that you're discussing, and it's transparent, like the attorneys told us as well, so, I think this is a no-brainer, like
Okay,
Jim was saying, so.
if we think that, then we need a motion.
Move to repeal resolution number 535062025 related to the Aggregate Production Operation Advisory Council for the City of Garden Ridge.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to reiterate that I want to plan to replace this if we're repealing this. I don't want to sit around for 3 months.
Nope, next month. Okay, all in favor, vote aye.
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 Okay, that passes. Moving on to 7.7, public hearing, discussion of possible action on ordinance number 19-02, 2026, amending ordinance number 19 by adopting the International Code Council Standard Building, Plumbing, Mechanical, Fuel, Gas, Private Sewage Disposal, Fire, and Residential Codes 2021 edition. Ryan, you're up.
Council, the International Code Council Building Codes was last adopted by the city of Garden Ridge in May of 2010. And the city is currently operating under the 2009 International Codes. Since that time, many surrounding municipalities have adopted newer editions. Adoption of the 21 International Code will improve consistency and uniformity with neighboring jurisdictions and incorporate update standards that enhance building safety, construction quality, and overall performance for new construction and renovations. B&B inspections, the city's building inspector and plan reviewer has reviewed the 21 international codes and recommends adoption. As a part of the update, the city is required to adopt minimum building requirements governing the construction, alteration, repair, and addition of building structures, including accessory structures and related improvements. Staff recommends adoption of the ordinance establishing the following as the City of Garden Ridge Building Code: the 21 additions of the international building, plumbing, mechanical, fuel, gas, fire prevention, residential codes, along with the city's minimum building requirements as outlined in attachments 1, 2, 3 of the ordinance. 19, adoption of 21 international code will modernize the city's building standards and enhance construction quality and safety and align Garden Ridge with current industry standards and surrounding communities. Again, this is the first step in moving forward with getting this updated, since it's currently at 2009, and then bringing forward an updated permitting fee schedule, and then with our goal to, again, to be aligned with most cities as far as the international code, updating our permit fee schedule, and then getting online permitting here hopefully sooner than later as a result of doing these. So, but most cities have probably been at 21 already. Some cities are probably moving up to 24 right now. But, you know, the last time this was updated was 2009, so it's time to change. So.
We just need to open up a public hearing, give them a couple of seconds, and see if anybody runs to the podium, and then close it, then you can vote on it.
All right, like you said, this does require a public hearing, so we're gonna open up the public hearing at 7:11. Do we have anybody out in the audience that wants to speak on this topic? I'm actually just waiting for the clock to click to 7:12. Because it's about to do that.
We also had no written comments submitted.
Okay. Thanks for catching me on that one. So no written comments, no citizen comments at the public meeting. Therefore, the public hearing is closed at 7:12. Any further council discussion on this? Any thoughts, any inputs? It hasn't been updated in the entire time I've been sitting up here, so it's probably time to update it. It predates me.
But no, I think the most important thing is updating it to run concurrent with a lot of our neighboring cities have the same type of system in place.
Is this a long process? What is the timeline on something like this look like?
It's pretty straightforward. I mean, once council's adopted, I think we have to publicize it, and then after that, we can implement it.
Okay, any other council discussion or questions? If not, then I need a motion.
I think we do have to buy, like, the booklets, it's like the 21 editions, keep on hand here, but it's like $300-$400, just keep them here, just in case someone needs to reference them, even though our plan review goes to me and B, we still have to have them here in place. So that's the only thing from an administrative standpoint.
Okay. Then I need a motion.
All right, a motion to approve the adoption of ordinance number 19-022026, amendment number 8.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, we're going to hold it up for a vote. All in
Aye.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous again. Thanks, folks. Okay, moving on. That is all of the business items for tonight's meeting. We now on to the citizen comment period. You're not required to sign up, but you must sign in if you come up after you speak. You're limited to a 2-minute period. Can't speak about the same topic if we spoke about it in the first comment period, which nobody spoke, so we don't have to worry about that. We'll need you to state your name and your address before your comments begin. Is there anybody out in the audience that would like to come up and speak in this 2-minute, with their 2 minutes? Wow, this is pretty quiet. I must be not doing this. I like it. All right, then no citizen comments for the 2-minute citizen comment period. On to item number 9, announcements on items of community interest. and I'll just start over with Brian, and we'll work our way around and end up back with me.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the Coffee with a Council Member event that I had hosted on this past Saturday. I want to thank Linda for allowing us to use the library. I can't stress it enough. It's a great venue, and I appreciate it. Felt very warmly, homely, and personable in that environment. The coffee she made too was awesome. She was able to provide with 2 different types of coffee, which the K-Cups and actually just brewing some coffee. And I want to thank the constituents that came out there and talked. I thought we had a very good conversation. I look forward to more of those. I also want to thank Ryan for taking time out of his family day to be with us for his time and helping with some of the questions that were asked. Also want to thank my father, who's in the back too, for bringing some donuts. You know, I have to be honest, I didn't think about that, but he hit it on the head with that, with the donuts. So like I said, I want to thank everybody for being there, and hopefully we can have some more of those going on in the future. And that's all I have to report, Sid. So. I reimbursed him in other ways.
Last month, Jim and I hosted coffee hour with council members, veteran edition, if you will. We had a pretty great turnout. I would say that the feedback from the veteran community on what they need and what they would like to see within our community was very good. And we do have, we're not having an event for them in the month of February, but we will host Texas Vet Commission in March to provide briefings of services and programs that are available to our veteran community.
Then we're going to end up with me. And I do have something that I think impacts the community here. So I've been sitting on this council for about 12 years. It'll be 12 years this summer. And I just decided, after talking to the wife and talking to some other folks that are maybe interested in the seat, I am not going to run. I really appreciate all the people who have supported me and kind of, I don't want to say bully me into, but tried to talk me into staying on council. But I wanted to make it public. I wanted the city employees to know, the citizens, but more the city employees and whatnot, that it's been a great 12 years, and I look forward to see what happens. We got a great group going.
Well, thank you for your service, Todd. And man, it's going to feel weird you not being up here, man. But thank you. Yeah, your family's going to.
Another couple months.
He's going to get to have you for the next future going. I bet it was hard for them to have to, you know, take some time away from you for 12 years while you're up here on this council doing what you've been doing. And just want to thank you, man, for all you've done. Thank you, sir.
I'm not dead yet.
Well, I know. But before you know it, man, you know how it is. That's how time flies. But thank you, sir. Just wanted to thank you.
Your engine's revving later, Obi-Wan. So Marissa, you could stop harassing me about filling out my packet, and I know there's at least one other person that's very interested. I won't throw names out, but there's at least one other person that's very interested, so we'll see what happens. And I think that means we're done. So there being no further business, the city council regular meeting is adjourned at 7:18. Everybody have a wonderful evening.